What if I told you O.J. Simpson wasn't the killer? That may not be true, but there's some theories to suggest that could be possible. As you know, in 1995, O.J. Simpson stood trial for the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. It became known as the trial of the century, broadcast into millions of homes and debated endlessly in barbershops, classrooms, and courtrooms. To many, the evidence of guilt seemed overwhelming, yet the jury found him not guilty. Almost 3 decades later, the debate hasn't ended. Could OJ have been innocent? And if he didn't do it, who did? Tonight we'll walk through the theories that challenge the official story and why this case still haunts America. The case against OJ. The prosecution argued that O.J. Simpson brutally killed Nicole and Ron on June 12, 1994. They pointed to DNA evidence, blood found in O.J.'s car and home, and the infamous glove at his estate. They highlighted his calls of domestic violence, the 911 calls Nicole made, and his jealousy. To the public, it seems simple: motive, opportunity, and physical evidence. But the defense countered with something powerful: doubt. They didn't need to prove who did it, only that the state's case wasn't airtight. And in the end, that was enough for the jury. But what if there's even more to this story? Our first theory is police misconduct and evidence tampering. One of the biggest cracks in the prosecution's case came from the LAPD themselves. Detective Mark Furman discovered the bloody glove behind OJ's guest house. Later, tapes surfaced of him using racist slurs, describing violence, and even bragging about planting evidence. The defense painted him as the symbol of police corruption. If he lied about his racism, they argued, why wouldn't he lie about the evidence? This wasn't just courtroom theater. It spoke directly to Los Angeles in the 1990s. The Rodney King beating had shaken trust in the LAPD, and many jurors were already skeptical of police motives. Could Furman or others have planted exaggerated evidence to secure a conviction? The question alone was enough to cast doubt. Our second theory is that Jason Simpson, OJ's son, committed the murder. One of the most controversial alternative theories points to OJ's son, Jason. Jason was in his early 20s at the time of the murders and reportedly had a history of explosive anger and violent outbursts. He had once attacked a girlfriend with a knife and was prescribed medication for mental health struggles. Some researchers argue that Jason may have had a confrontation with Nicole that escalated. The brutality of the murders, a frenzy of stabbing fits, what some psychologists call a rage killing. The theory suggests OJ may have discovered what had happened afterward, and that could explain his panicked behavior, the infamous slow-speed Bronco chase, and why he never seemed fully honest even when proclaiming innocence. Instead of confessing, did he cover for his son? It's speculation, but it remains one of the most debated possibilities. The third theory is that there is multiple killers or drug connections. Another theory suggests OJ wasn't involved at all, that Nicole and Ron's murders were tied to drugs or even organized crime. Nicole lived in Brentwood, a wealthy neighborhood, but some of her friends moved in LA club circles where drug use was common. Ron Goldman worked at restaurants and nightclubs, an industry that often brushed against shady business. The murders were ferocious, 2 healthy adults killed in a matter of just minutes. Some say this points to more than one attacker. Could Ron have walked in on a drug-related dispute? Could Nicole have been targeted as a warning? This theory was never pushed in court, but it highlights how quickly police locked onto OJ, leaving other possibilities unexplored. The fourth theory is mishandled forensics. Today, DNA evidence is considered gold standard, but in 1994, it was still pretty new, and the LAPD crime lab had a history of mistakes. Several blood samples tied to OJ showed inconsistencies. Some contained traces of EDTA, a preservative used in test tubes, suggesting they might have been tampered with or taken from reference samples rather than crime scenes. The defense argued that sloppy handling, contaminated evidence, or even worse, made it unreliable entirely. Combined with the glove not fitting in court, the jury was left wondering, if the physical evidence wasn't bulletproof, how much could they trust? The fifth theory is that OJ was present, but he wasn't the killer. Some believe OJ may have been there that night, but didn't commit the murders himself. His erratic behavior, his refusal to turn himself in, and the dramatic Bronco chase suggest he knew more than he let on. Could he have stumbled onto the scene after the murders? Could he have witnessed the aftermath, panicked, and tried to hide his involvement? That might explain why his DNA was found, but doesn't necessarily prove he swung the knife. To fully understand why the jury acquitted, you have to look at the time. Los Angeles was still raw from the Rodney King beating and riots. Many jurors were skeptical of the police, skeptical of prosecutors, and open to the idea of misconduct. The trial became more than just OJ. It became about race, power, and trust in the system. The defense masterfully tapped into that, painting OJ not just as a defendant, but as a black man targeted by a corrupt police force. In the end, no one but the killer or killers know what truly happened that night. Was OJ an innocent man framed by the police? Was he covering for someone else? Or was he guilty and simply escaped just because the jury couldn't get past their doubt? What we do know is this: the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman remain officially unsolved. And decades later, the questions are louder than ever. If you're fascinated by true crime, mysteries, and abandoned places, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss anything.